This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello everybody, glad you could make it. My name is Kaylee Ellen and welcome back to Rare Plant Index. I know, I haven't looked at when the last one was, but I'm willing to bet it was about 3 years ago. So I just need to take a quick minute to explain the situation because obviously some things are different to the last time I did a Rare Plant Index. But first, if you are new here, I will explain what a Rare Plant Index is. A Rare Plant Index is basically where I go about my business on the internet, I find a gigantic list of plants and I categorize them anywhere from common, uncommon, rare, very rare, extremely rare, and where applicable, holy. Now, I don't always have a holy category. I usually reserve that for if there's like the one holy grail plant. The clue is in the name. We've not often had a holy. I think we've had maybe 2 ever. The rarity is categorized as according to commercial rarity. So I'm not talking about how many numbers of things there are in the wild. I'm just talking about how commercially available it is. Also, needless to say, that will depend on where you are in the world. Something that might be super easy for me to get in the UK or the EU might be impossible to get, for example, if you're in the US, and vice versa. The Philippines might have more available than we do here. It really is a mixed bag, but if nothing else, guys, just take it as a shopping list, all right? A lot of people prefer to use a notepad and pen or jot down the plants they like the look of in this video. Now then, I've made it a little bit bigger than my old Rare Plant Indexes. My old ones used to be 25 to 30 plants. I think this one probably has about 56, 57 plants in it. There's a lot of plants. We're going to be here for a while. I suspect we're going to be here for about an hour. And that's being quick about it. So obviously, since a lot more plants now are more common, I would usually start these lists with uncommon. So the shift I've made in order to accommodate the changing, kind of declining plant market, if you will, is I've now included common. Shall we just get into it? I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited for this. So let's kick off the Alocasia Rare Plant Index. Okay, so uncommon is our first category, guys. And all I'll say is, generally in this list, look, if it's green and boring, I haven't put it in, okay? I've kept things that are interesting to look at. I've not gone with random stuff found in the wild that just look like any green Alocasia. I'm really sorry I haven't done that. It would bore you. It would bore you. So in no particular order, the first plant in common is the Alocasia green velvet, also known as the Alocasia Friedeck. Right, listen. Friedeck, I got this wrong for years. Friedeck apparently refers to the variegated version of the green velvet. But honestly, most of the time, if you're looking for this on the internet, if you see this today and you think, ooh, vibes, yes, you could look for Friedeck as well as green velvet. Now, I've put this in common because in the UK, it is plentiful. Again, I won't repeat this the entire video, don't worry, but that might not be the same for you where you are. I've wanted one of these for years, and I think the only reason I haven't done it is because, how can I explain this? I feel like it is a plant that is very reactive to light. It has very thin petioles, and I feel like it would search for the light much quicker than some of the other Alocasias on this list. I will give an example when we get to one that I think is more robust. So I think it would move a lot. I think if I put it on a shelf, it's going to grow real funky, and I'm going to struggle with it. Is it going to stop me from trying? No, probably not, because I have a windowsill and I'm willing to give it a go. It's been on my wish list for a long time. It's still there. It's a beautiful plant. A lot of people have these. This isn't something super new, but it's on there. And it's common. I don't know where it used to be before. I would imagine it was more towards rare, maybe, back in the day. I would have to have a look. But yeah, lovely plant. The next plant in common is the Alocasia Heterophylla Dragons Breath. Listen, this is so far up my wish list, you cannot imagine. This plant I have been hunting for. I kind of want a sizable one. I want it to be impressive. I just want to cut to the chase with it. I absolutely adore it. This one should be wanted by many. It's got everything, in my opinion, that you want from an Alocasia. It looks like some kind of mad fantasy plant. It's nice and silver. It's got dimension. It's long. It's pointy. It's just fabulous. Like, who doesn't want one of these? And the best part is, guys, it's pretty common, or at least it is, seemingly anyway, for the UK and EU. Honestly, absolutely 10 out of 10. What a way to start this off. Unbelievable. Oh, so good. Okay, the next plant interests me a lot because there are 2 plants coming up, guys, that are so similar, I could not tell them apart. and I've done this job for years, until I put them side by side. And I have taken these two images off the same person's Instagram, and it is tagged in the description. So the next plant in common is the Alocasia reginula black velvet, also known as just the black velvet. It's a lovely plant. It's very meaty. I think that's fair. I think it's known as a jewel alocasia. It's meaty. Oh, I'm dropping my phone. It's got super dark foliage, not the darkest. Stay with me. And it's got really white contrasted veins. I feel like the edges of the leaf, they probably don't, but they always appear to sort of roll back on themselves. It's quite a rounded like plant. Lovely, lovely plant. This used to be probably, again, in rare. If I had to guess, don't quote me. I'm sure you can go find my old Alocasia Rare Plant Index somewhere in the playlist. But it's really, really nice. It was on my wish list for a long time, and then I got it, and unfortunately, it didn't actually make it back from the plant shop. So, what I might replace it with, okay, is the next plant on this list. Honestly, stay with me because I'm going to put them side by side, because anyone that's ever wanted to know, this is the difference. The next plant in common is the Alocasia reginula black ninja. Sometimes just it goes by Alocasia ninja as well. Now, on first glance, you'd be thinking, and you'd be right. Oh my God, that is the same. Are you sure it's not a black velvet? Like, what's the difference? What's the tea? What's going on? Well. I'm now going to put the black velvet on the right-hand side, so I'm going to cover my face with it. And you should be able to see, guys, the difference. So from what I can see, the ninja is darker. You might not be able to tell very well on these pictures that I'm showing you, but it is darker. The veining is definitely different, and the edges of the leaf are just completely different. The whole thing is a lot flatter. It has more of a margin. As for the texture, I can't actually see on the image that I'm looking at, but I think the texture overall is very similar. And honestly, if I had to replace my Alocasia Black Velvet, I'd actually just go for the Ninja, just because I like the Black Velvet because it was small and black, but this is doing basically the same thing, guys. So I'd probably pick that. So tomato, if you don't care, there's two different plants you could look for, but I promise you guys, they are actually different. I wasn't sure when I looked this up. I genuinely thought, oh, they've given Black Velvet a new name. But no, from these two pictures, you can see they are different. So moving on to common, I believe this used to be in rare. This is the Alocasia Dragonscale. It is also very meaty. So this is something that moves less as well as the previous one to the fried egg when I mentioned it earlier on. I forgot to mention that. This one, if you put it somewhere, it's not going to bend quite as quickly, whereas the fried egg would probably be all over the place. I can't really explain why. I know I haven't really owned one, but I can just tell by looking at it. So anyway, the Dragonscale is a wonderful, wonderful plant. There is an alternative that's coming next on this list that if you know your Alocasia, you will absolutely not be surprised at all. But this is lovely. It's green. It's got good contrast. It's got good veining. I had one of these for a long time and there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just, I've explained this before, but I only actually own one Alocasia on this entire list, and I think it's in common. But I'm just not sure about my house and Alocasia, but honestly, I think I'm going to change that this year. But I've had it before. It's absolutely gorgeous. You should, fingers crossed, be able to pick it up for reasonably cheap. I'm sorry, I have the itchiest nose on planet Earth. I actually can't deal with it.
Hold on for 1 second. I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. If you want to create a website quickly and easily, then Squarespace is the tool for the job. There's a huge selection of up-to-date templates that are fully customizable to your own branding. I've been using Squarespace for around 3 years now, and honestly, I'd never go anywhere else. Squarespace now features something called Blueprint, which guides you through an even more in-depth customization process, allowing you to very quickly personalize and launch your own website online. You can choose the sections that you want on each page, as well as any other suggested pages that Squarespace offers you. You can change all manner of colors and fonts to suit your style, as well as the conversational style that the AI uses. I know. If you want to create a really sleek looking website, either for yourself or perhaps you're setting up an online business like mine, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Kaylee Ellen to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And back to the video.
Coming next in common, I have the wonderful Alocasia Silver Dragon. I'm going to pop it next to the Dragonscale for comparison because it's pretty obvious why. It's more or less, guys, the same, only it's silver. That's basically your only difference. If I remember correctly, I found the Dragonscale only slightly easier to grow. I'm not saying they're both difficult. I just feel like I found the Dragonscale a little bit easier. I found the Silver Dragon to be a bit slower, but I actually find that is the case, pro tip, with nearly every silvery houseplant ever. I just find they're all really slow. Could be a chlorophyll thing, I don't know. But yep, another one, really common. If it's something you're looking for, try it out. A lot of people still love these. They look very photogenic, both of them do, let's be honest. They look so photogenic. I'm not surprised that they're still loved by many, to be honest. The next Alocasia in common is the only Alocasia that I currently own. I'm pretty sure. I have one rogue Alocasia upstairs, but apart from that, this is it. So I had to do a bit of asking around for this one. This is the Alocasia Platinum. Now, I think it is also known as the Alocasia Bisma. I think it's a platinum version of Alocasia Bisma. So I'm just going to call it, for the sake of this, platinum, probably / Bisma, just so you get so that they're grouped together if you want to search them up. But please just be wary of that. That's definitely something to watch out for, I guess. But this Alocasia is so, oh my God, it's so good. It really is that platinum. It's very, very silvery in appearance. It's very meaty. It's very, very sturdy. Like, you couldn't bend it, you would immediately snap it. That goes for any leaf, any petiole, anything. It's a wonderful, wonderful plant. I can't tell you anything about the care because I've only just got it. I've had it 2 weeks, maybe. And to be fair, I've repotted it and it seems fine. It's not done anything. So I'll let you know how that goes. But I can't actually recommend them enough. I went to a garden centre and I was looking at basically a load of Alocasia to basically pick one of. And I had a pick of the bunch, guys. There's probably about 30 different ones. I came there for a specific one, which we will get to. It wasn't there. So I was just about to turn and leave. I'd looked at every single Alocasia, included variegated Fryedeck, everything. And I was on my way out and I saw that. And honestly, it's one of the best things I've ever done. I will let you know how it grows if you subscribe to the channel or if you watch the channel. No doubt you'll get updates on it. Gorgeous plant. Completely recommend it. I think it's slightly more expensive than some of the other Alocasia, but generally it's much of a muchness. It really is. The next Alocasia, super, super classic. We love it. This is the Alocasia Zebrina. I think we've nearly all had one at one point. They've always been around. They've been around for years. They've been one of the flagship Alocasia. You nearly always see them on I don't know, if there's some kind of home decor thing, some sort of image. There's nearly always one of these on the side somewhere, as well as a monstera or whatever. It's just a really trendy plant. I love them. They're not actually too difficult. They're pretty good. I used to think they were more difficult. Maybe not some more. Not now that we have things like self-watering plant pots, because let's be real, way back in the day when I started, no one was, yes, self-watering plant pots existed, but no one was using them. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of come into play as people's collections have got insane. But yeah, great, great plant. Love it. There is a similar plant that I should have put next to it and I haven't. That's very rude. Maybe it's in the next category. There is a similar plant to this, so I will probably swing back around and show you this in a bit via a comparison. The next plant in common is the Alocasia Stingray. I love these plants, but what I will say is I actually prefer them when they're a little bit more juvenile. They look cool mature, don't get me wrong. I just think they lose some of their cuteness when they get mature. It's another plant that is very reactive, very bendy. The lower leaves will curl right over before they just, drop off on you. It's definitely more of a difficult Alocasia, I think. But is it worth it? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. If you want a really eclectic collection and you're collecting Alocasia, then absolutely go for it. Absolutely go for it. It is a very beautiful plant, to be honest. If someone comes into your house and they're not very planty, if you have that out on a table, somebody will say something. Somebody will say something. They will be like, what the hell is that? In a good way, I hope. The next plant in common, we have the Alocasia Scalprum. I think I remember where this used to be, guys. This was either in very rare or extremely rare when I did my original Rare Plant Index. Now, don't get me wrong, that was probably years ago, but it just shows you how far things have come. It's kind of crazy. Now, honestly, I don't know what picture I used, obviously, years ago, but I was looking this up on the internet, obviously, to make this Rare Plant Index, and I wasn't enamored by it, and I think I did like it last time. It's very understated. Now, I'm not knocking it. There are a lot of understated Alocasia in this list, so if you're looking for something understated, I promise you'll find it. But I just There's other plants that are very similar, I think, that do it a little bit better. Let me know what you think about the Scalprum. I don't see a ton of people having it, not for any bad reason. I think it is just a looks thing. But I just think if you want something, I don't know, if you want something a bit different, go for it. It does have almost the same kind of, I used this term years ago when I was talking about the black velvet. It has like a tire tread on the leaves. And I do think that's really, really cool, to be fair. So it is really nice if you want something a bit textured, a bit simple. I just think maybe you could do a bit better. It's just my opinion, guys, just my opinion. The next plant in common, I don't think this was in the original Rare Plant Index. I don't know. The next plant is the Alocasia venusta. Hope that's how you pronounce it. You know my pronunciation is... Anyway, it's only going to get worse. This I quite like, and it does remind me of something, and I don't know what it is. I'm almost thinking like an anthurium or a philodendron or something. Maybe an anthurium. It's very, very different. And you see what I'm saying? So basically, it's not the same as the Scalprum that we've just seen. It's not. But it does give off the same vibes. And I actually think it gives off the vibes better. You know, I just think the Scalprum's a little bit too regular. This one is definitely different. It definitely comes into its own when it's mature. The image that I'm probably showing you, you can see that lower leaf on the right. A bit boring, so you're going to have to be patient to get this one to look cool. But isn't that the case with everything? Literally. So there is that. But if you think, oh, well, I like it, but I don't like the length aspect, can you just make it the same, but like not the same, just make it look like a normal alocasia shape? Then I bring you guys the next plant on this list, which is the Alocasia, let me try and pronounce it, Cuprea. Anyway, as you can see, it is sort of similar. It looks, I don't want to say it looks more chlorotic, but it actually looks like this one might need fed a bit more. I see a lot of images of this where the edges of the leaves do look very pale. It doesn't quite look right to me. Personally, I would probably not go for this just because I don't like shit like that. I really don't. I like my shit to look as healthy as possible. There's another plant on this list that I feel the same way about. Just don't like things that look a bit chlorotic, you know? I don't know. It's okay. I really don't see people owning it though. All right, it's in common. It's made its way there somehow, somewhen. Probably, like a lot of these plants, it's come along very slowly from like 2022 to 2024, when the alocasia is just the alocasia spectrum is starting to broaden a bit because we've maxed out philodendron. Anthurium have gone nuts now. Monstera, do you know what I mean? Like it was gonna happen, but I've just not seen it. So the next plant in common, yes, we are still in common, is the Alocasia Cuprea. Hear me out. I do try and put plants next to each other that are sort of similar. In a way, it's kind of similar. It's a tiny bit similar to the previous plant, the Clypeolata. My God, I'm sure I'm dyslexic, you know. Literally, just ignore all pronunciations. Look, the names are on the screen, guys. Just write them down. But yeah, the Cuprea is nice. I've had one before. They are actually surprisingly reactive to light and surprisingly bendy. They pop really quickly. So if you buy one, like a pot, you're probably going to get like 10 in there. So good luck with those. These, when they're mature, by the way, look really, really good. I think the issue is people don't seem to keep them long enough. I know a lot of people that buy them and then they have them a little while and they're like, actually, no. And I don't know if that's maybe because they're not as photogenic as what people think they are. Like, I don't know. I mean, they are nice. There's Cuprea, and people used to say there was Cuprea Red Secret, but I'm pretty sure it's the same plant, guys. I don't think there's any different. I think it's probably environmental. A little bit more heat, a little bit more light. It's probably going to make it red. Don't quote me on that. Do not quote me on that. But I suspect that's the case. So the next plant in common is a plant that I just mentioned before, whereby I think it looks a bit chlorotic, and I would not have. It's got a famous history, this one. This is Alocasia tanderusa, also known as Alocasia Jacklyn. It's the same plant. So basically, tanderusa has existed for a long time. I'm not exactly sure when. I probably should have looked it up. It's existed for a long time. Somebody came along in like 2020, 2021 and claimed they just found it and then they named it, I think. There was big things about it being poached, this, that and the other. All in all, guys, history aside, in my personal opinion, it's just an ugly plant. I'm sorry. Listen, if you've got a tanderusa and you love it, that's great for you. I'm so happy for you. But I just think, listen, there are some plants on this list today that absolutely blow that out of the water that have similar vibes. All right. And I just think, just hold on the Tanderusa. We don't need it, guys. We don't need it. One of which, sort of, not quite the same, is the next plant on this list, which is Alocasia Portei? I don't know. So if I just put it up next to the Jacklyn just for reference, you get what I'm saying. The leaf shape is sort of similar. Obviously, after that, it looks different. But if I was going to pick one or the other, I mean, I'll start by saying I wouldn't have either because that shape is not really for me in terms of Alocasia. So I would pick neither. But if I had to pick one, I'd definitely pick the Portei. Oh, you know, I'm going to give up trying. Yeah, similar vibes. I just think that one's better. Right, the next plant is, I don't think this is very popular at all. And honestly, I think it's kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's kind of boring. The next plant on the list for common, yes, I know, we're still in it, is Alocasia wentii. Listen, it's just a bit boring. Honestly, you'll see what I mean as we go through, guys. You'll see what I mean. It's just boring. There's other stuff that's better. Is it nice? Meh. I just think, I'm so sorry if I'm offending people, but I just think if it's in your collection, do you even notice it yourself? Does it just blend in with everything? I don't know. I'm not even going to linger on it because I just think it's boring and I think you could do better. Don't settle, guys. Don't settle. Certainly don't settle for this one. I've always hated this one. I don't know why. The next one on the list for common is Alocasia cucullata. What a name. I just don't like it. Listen, now, if you like heart shapes, this is the Alocasia for you. 100%. I just, again, it's the same as the last plant. It's just a bit boring. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, my hair is, I'm so itchy and hot. We've had so much sun today and I've had to wait to film until it's passed over the house. But this kitchen is so hot. I'm actually sweating. I'm literally sweating. So we're going to skip over that one as well because, again, it's very, very boring. I'm so sorry if you have one. Listen, like with most of the Alocasia on this list, there is variegated ones. I guess that looks nicer. It's not for me. So I cannot, guys, do this list without mentioning one of the number one common Alocasia that there is. Let's just be honest. And that is Alocasia amazonica. And listen, it's not that bad. I've never personally liked it, but I found myself when I was making this Rare Plant Index, there are some other plants on this list that kind of have vibes of it or like similar hallmarks, and I actually kind of like them. So credit where it's due to the Amazonica, you just probably won't catch me owning it. But most people that have started out with Alocasia have actually started with these. And I remember doing an Alocasia care video way back when, where I actually recommended that you get something like this because it's mass produced. It's so cheap. If you've not dealt with Alocasia before, get something really cheap. Get just literally like a cannon fodder plant and just see if you can deal with it. Do you know what I mean? So it's good for that, I guess. Apologies if you've got an Amazonica and you absolutely think the world of it. To be fair, the picture I'm looking at is quite nice. It's not that I hate it, I just have other things I like more. So I've grouped these similar looking things together, just so you know. The next plant in common is Alocasia poly, which apparently, in my notes, it's not quite what you think. It's a cross between Alocasia sanderiana and watsoniana, which we have not got to yet, I don't think. So, it's all right. It's basically like a slimmer version of the Amazonica with more of a blown out veining. So if you don't like the first one, you might not like the second one. I appreciate that. So we will move on from that because if you think I like it, but let's just shrink it, then you get the Alocasia Bambino. And it's just basically, it's so close to the poly, guys. It's like a shrunken dwarf poly. I don't know if it actually is a poly that is literally mutated in dwarf. I didn't look it up. I'll be honest, it took a lot to make this. And I ran out of time. And I wanted to get this out to you guys. Let me know if it is actually a dwarf of a poly, because I'm looking at them and I see zero difference in the markings, in the leaf shape, literally any of it. It just looks like that, but smaller. I wouldn't be able to notice the difference. Now, something that is a little bit nicer, it's a little bit more refined, it's a little bit more, you're getting a bit more for your money, in my opinion, in terms of looks. The next plant in common is the Alocasia pink dragon. I believe it has another name and I can't remember what it is. But basically, it's kind of like the Amazonica, except it has lovely pink stems. Now, a lot of the time, in my personal opinion, this looks a little bit better on photographs than it does in real life. It can look quite underwhelming in real life, I think, because when you see it on Instagram, you see a lot of people like pumping the color on like the pink and then making everything darker and all that sort of stuff. That's cool, that's great. But in real life, the pink it's not that potent. It's a very, very light blush. Even in the image I'm showing you, it's this tiny bit more pink, and I've not touched that. So yeah, it's nice. I did actually want one at one point, but I think I saw them in person and I was put off a little bit. I remember saying a long, long time ago, if you've watched my videos that long ago, you'll know. So it just kind of worn off. But I put it next because you can see the sort of similarities to the Amazonica. So there you go. Right, the next plant is very different, and although it is in common, I don't see people owning it. But maybe this is a plant for you. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to pronounce it. So it's actually a hybrid. This is Alocasia Chantreri, which is a hybrid, apparently, of Alocasia Cuprea and Alocasia sanderiana. This is quite nice, and I've included it because it is very, very different. It almost has like an Amazonica edge to it, but then someone's just sort of painted over the contrasted veining and just made it all one color. And I can see that being quite nice, and I can see why somebody would actually want that. Like, I do get it. It's quite nice. I wouldn't have it myself because they're just, oh my god, there's too many Alocasia on this list. There's so many more that I would probably have, including the next plant actually. But let me know if you've got one, you know? It's a very, very nice plant. It's just, it's not quite good enough for me. Okay, the next plant in common, I used to have one of these. I didn't realize it was a hybrid at the time, but oh my goodness, I had the best time with this plant. They were really tough. I featured it in a few videos, like way back when. This is Alocasia golden bone. It is a hybrid, and I can see one parent, but I can't really see the other parent. A hybrid of green velvet, so the Frydek, and Cuprea. Now, I think we can both agree, I see Cuprea. I mean, I sort of see the Frydek, but when I saw Golden Bone, I never, like way back when, I never assumed it was a hybrid at all. I thought it was just its own thing. I didn't really think, ooh. Now, it is good. It is very understated, but honestly, it's worth it. And I actually do think it can stand out in a collection. I think generally, if an Alocasia has like contrasted veining or whatever, it will stand out in a collection. But yeah, it's a really nice plant, guys. I don't know if people care enough about it, but if you think, oh, I kind of like Cuprea, but I need to be a bit more normal, like I don't want my collection to look that like avant-garde, then maybe go for a golden bone. Honestly, they're very, very good. The next plant on my list in common, yes, I know, is the Alocasia, oh my goodness, Lukiwan, which is another hybrid of Alocasia alba, no idea, and Alocasia sinuata. And I put it in, it's green, but it is different enough, in my opinion. It's got a really weird corrugation on it. Now, it's not super amazing, I would not choose it, but it is a little bit different, and it is making the rounds in all of like the tissue cultured mass-produced stuff, which makes me think that somebody at some point wanted it and it was popular. So there it is. I'll skip over it again because it's very, very green. Very, very green. So the next plant I have in common, I think this used to be rare, you know. Back in the day, I think this used to be rare. This is a very acquired taste, guys. This is a very acquired taste. It would be very good for like a bedside table or something, because I imagine it's always going to stay reasonably small, sort of, and it's not really going to get in your way. And I think if it grew a little bit gnarly, it'll still look good. So this is Alocasia Tiny Dancer, and the image I'm showing you, see what I mean? If you let that grow gnarly in a place where, say, the light is just not, it's not optimal, it still looks kind of good. It is almost, though, it's almost like a mini Strelitzia or something, or like it's almost like it's a little bit like a Monstera Burley Marks Flame or something. Like, I get the vibe. I used to want one. I think it was on a wish list. It doesn't do it for me now, probably because I've seen them in person. The choice that we used to get for Alocasia was insane. Like, I wouldn't have it now, but it is a nice plant. I don't think many people go for it though. Right, we're going to swing back to this next plant as soon as we get into the next category, because I have another comparison for you. I know. This last plant in common, we've made it, guys, is Alocasia Melo. Now, this is quite nice. It's got a really nice tire type tread across the leaf. It is all like a matte green, and it looks almost, rough to the touch. I've never touched one. I wouldn't know. I don't know if it's velvet or not velvet. I guess it's probably velvet. It's quite a nice plant. But there is something that is very similar. It's crazy, to be honest. But I actually see why. I'm looking at the parents because it's a hybrid. And I can kind of see how we got there, actually. So we're now going to kick off uncommon, okay? And I'm going to swing back to that last plant because I would like to put up on the left-hand side of the screen the first plant in uncommon, which is the Alocasia maharani, which is a hybrid of Alocasia reginula, which is like the black velvet basically, and Alocasia Melo, which is the last one. So I'm going to slap the Melo up on the right. You can kind of see what the deal is. It does to me, to be honest, to me it looks more like a black velvet but muted so that the contrast in the veining has been removed. Personally, if you like the look of these last two that I've talked about, I don't think you need both unless you're a mad collector, which I don't think in today's climate many of us are anymore. I think we're really just like, yeah, I'll have one of those. People can't be bothered with the levels that we had in like 2020, 2021. There's not a lot of money in it. It's a lot. We're not at home anymore, furloughed, stuff like that. Like nobody needs that many plants. So you could just pick one. Personally, I would maybe pick, I actually don't know. Maybe the Melo? I don't know. Honestly, I could barely pick one because they're so similar. Obviously, it's a hybrid, so yeah, that's why. But you could pick either. I'm going to throw up another comparison at you, and it's probably not a comparison that you might expect, but this plant I'm sure used to be an extremely rare. I'm sure it did. This next plant in uncommon, guys, how far have we gone, is the Alocasia aslanii. Now, it's more niche than rarity when it comes to this plant. So it has been sold in, at one point in time, it was more common. What I suspect has happened is that shops aren't buying it in as much because this one is a little bit harder to care for. So it's more commercially rare, but it's because people don't necessarily want it and they can't deal with it, right? And please bear that in mind when we go through this list. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes something seems rare. It might not be. It's probably because people tried it and it didn't work for them. Whether it just be the shops trying to roll them out or people buying them and killing them or whatever it is, or maybe it's just not pretty enough. Different things. But I would like to throw up an Alocasia Cuprea next to it, just because it's the only other Alocasia, to be honest, that gives you any remote similar vibe. Like, there is nothing really quite like aslanii on this list, so I did want to throw up that. It's almost like a Cuprea that is flatter, smaller, less gnarly, I guess, and it's more purpley, more pinky purpley. It is very pretty. It's got a wonderful, you can't see on this photograph, but it's got a wonderful, I think it's got quite a lime green leaf margin on it. Very, very nice plant. So if you want one, go for it. I just hear that they are quite difficult. Right, I put this plant on the list. I should have just made it variegated, but I normally have a rule to not make it variegated unless I'm doing a variegated red plant index, right? So I put it on there, but just start thinking of the variegated version. I put here the Alocasia odora. And I have put a bog standard green Alocasia, but I'm also putting it here to serve the purpose of, I'm not going to give you a red plant index full of green Alocasia. But the odora is very, very special because you can get variegated ones and they are in tissue culture and everything else. Having said that though, to just buy an odora, I actually could not really find on the internet, but I know it's common. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's in uncommon. It was just slightly less available. I suspect nobody wants it because they would just have a variegated one. Completely get that. I'm going to throw up another comparison at you. The next plant in uncommon is the Alocasia tigrina. Now then, it's so similar to the Zebrina, and the picture I'm showing you is not going to make it obvious, but I promise you the petioles are like a zebra colour, right? The same as the Zebrina. The main difference I see is it does look a bit darker and the leaves are a lot more sagittate, so arrow-shaped. They're a lot longer. They're a lot pointier. If you don't care, I would say get the Zebrina, because it's highly likely, because the Zebrina has been mass produced for years now, that the Zebrina might be cheaper. It really depends. It really, really depends. It depends what you want, what you like. If I was going to pick, I'd probably have to see them in person next to each other and just see which one I vibed with. But again, I'm not that bothered, to be honest. So the next plant, I think This can look fantastic, but it needs to be big. It needs to be just bold, beautiful, have pride of place. It needs to be big for this to look great. This is the Alocasia Sarian. I'm going to put it up next to the Amazonica because it's kind of the same vibes, but the plants do look totally different. I'm not saying the plants look the same, but you get the point. It's still jagged edge. It's still arrow-shaped. It's still got high contrast and very crisp contrast. It's very, very nice. I see a lot of images on the internet. I'm not judging anybody, okay? I see a lot of images on the internet where you see these and they've got 1 or 2 leaves, and I just think, maybe people can't grow them that well. I might be very wrong. I don't know. But I see that a lot. I don't know. I think this is a little bit more like an Alocasia amazonica that's a bit more refined, I think. And I think if you do like the amazonica, then it's a great one to go for. But let me show you this next one because I would have one. And I don't tend to see it. I think, although it is uncommon, I think when this is around, generally it does sell quite quickly. So just be aware of that. And I understand why. Because this, guys, is the Alocasia watsoniana. And if that does not give you Anthurium regale vibes, what else will? That is very, very unique. I don't think there is anything else on this list that looks like this. I could be wrong. I made it late last night. I put all the images together and I organized it all. I don't remember seeing anything that looked similar to this. So this is very unique. And if you want something that looks like this, maybe you love Anthurium regale, right? But like many of us, you just cannot grow that thing. There are too many variations. They all look really different. They're really hard to grow. Can't be bothered. Try this. This looks really, really nice. And if I found maybe a baby plant, because I've not got a lot of space for big plants anymore, I'd probably get one. Honestly, I would probably get one. Oh, it's really nice, that, isn't it? That is really, really different. Okay, so the next plant in uncommon. I know. I did say this was going to be a long one. So the next plant on the list for uncommon is the Alocasia sinuata. And I'm pretty sure this was mentioned in some hybrids further up. I'm going to throw up very quickly a Dragonscale next to it. I'm not saying it's the same. It's really not, but this is the only plant that it reminds me of. Is it different enough to have it, like, actually in your house? Yeah. I think it's better than the Scalprum. I feel like this video is just me just not speaking very highly of Scalprum. And I don't know why. I haven't deliberately decided to target it. It's just how it's happened today. But honestly, that's quite nice. I wouldn't have it. I've got other things on the list that I quite fancy, but it's okay. I don't see people really having it. That's not necessarily a bad thing at all. The next plant, I might throw up 2 comparisons, actually. That you could compare this with a few different plants, actually. So this is the Alocasia reversa, and a few people seem to want it. Remember, it's still an uncommon. But this is Alocasia reversa, and I'm going to compare it with the platinum, just to show you that it's sort of similar. The reversa is just real dark in the middle. Like, that is very noticeable. Now, it does vary photograph to photograph. Why, you ask? Because people like to edit things to make them look better. I totally get that. So if this is something you immediately look at and you think, wow, that's amazing, I really invite you to go and look up some images on Google, Pinterest, Instagram, wherever your regular haunt is, and have a look. I wouldn't have it. I have the platinum. I don't feel I need it, but it is very funky if it actually looks like that. The next plant in uncommon, this is so philodendron-y. I had to check and make sure it was actually an alocasia. This is the Alocasia Brancifolia. Now, if that doesn't give you like philodendron mayoi or something like that, what on earth does? That is so similar. And I can see this being very welcome in a home where, you know, you like that kind of thing. You like those kind of philodendrons, the odd shapes. Maybe you like palms, monstera, stuff like that. Maybe you just like things that are a little bit more frilly. You know, they've got fenestration, stuff like that. I wouldn't have it because I'd probably just get philodendron. It doesn't really appeal to me. I know this alocasia's been out a long time. It's not for me, but I really get on this occasion why people might want this. It is pretty cool. And it changes a lot. It's giving me Florida when those leaves there at the bottom that are immature is really quite weird. You'd never expect an alocasia to look like that. You really wouldn't, but here we are. The next alocasia on this list, I'm going to level with you. I have never liked it. I've never liked it. I don't like it now. I've never seen a picture where I think, oh yeah, great. I've seen pictures of variegated ones. I don't like them either. This is Alocasia lotterbacchiana. I'm doing my best, guys. I'm doing my best to pronounce these names. It's just you know? I just think it's just boring. Like the next plant that I can see coming up after this one, I'd rather have. And I'm not necessarily saying I'd rather have it, it's just anything but this, right? I think, can't tell on this picture very well, I think it's got like a burgundy underside of each leaf. It's meh, like you can get these pretty much anywhere. They're really cheap. Like, just why would anyone want one? Honestly, I know like my preferences are really showing in this video, which I know a lot of you love. But every alocasia I've shown you so far, right? All of them, the contrasty ones, the silver ones, the black ones, the zebra ones, the long ones, the fat ones, the short ones, the tall ones. Why would you pick this? Why would you pick this? I'm sorry, I don't like it. We're skipping it. Let's move on. The next plant, this does remind me a little bit of another plant. This is Alocasia Nycteris, which I'm assuming comes from night. I don't know. It does seem quite dark. This is a bit cooler. It's not really got a shape that I recognize, although it's a little bit like... Sort of. I can't really show you. Hang on. Can I? You see that? If I do that, maybe. It's giving thaumatophyllum slightly. It's giving juvenile thaumatophyllum. It's nice. It's just, it doesn't really float my boat. It's not my vibe. If I'm going for odd shapes, I probably don't want that from an alocasia. I'd rather have odd colours, odd textures, veining, stuff like that. Or if it's an odd shape, it's got to be a little bit more gnarly, maybe. Just not that. You know, not that. Nothing like the philodendrons I like. I like my alocasia to be a bit different. But it's nice enough, and that is an uncommon. So what am I going to compare this next one with? Oh, I've got 3 things written down. Thank you, editing Kaylee. Love that for me. So the next one, I can't pronounce this. I cannot pronounce this. Alocasia puncakborneensis. That'll do, guys. So I would like to immediately compare this with the Scalprum and maybe you know what, I don't need to compare it with any of the ones because the Scalprum is probably the closest match that I can see. You could start comparing this to loads of stuff on this list, like the Sinuata, the Dragonscale, stuff like that. You could, but I think it's possibly closest to the Scalprum. Obviously, the lobes aren't really there on this, whereas the Scalprum, they are. But largely the texture and everything looks, from memory anyway, it looks kind of similar. So I'm gonna be that girl again. It looks better than Scalprum. I don't really see people owning this by the fact that I've never heard the name before this. I can barely pronounce it. I don't see anybody talking about this. It's not for me, really. It's not for me. The next plant is though. So we've talked about more arrow-shaped plants. We've talked about plants that are longer. We've talked about plants that have more veining, you know, like kapow, veining. I give you. This is wonderful. And the picture absolutely does it justice. This is the Alocasia Longiloba. I am so converted. It's giving Spiritus Sancti meets, I don't want to say Amazonica because it's too obvious, but it's giving something. Am I right? That looks incredible. And I can just tell that when that plant is mature, it would look unreal in a corner. It would look really stealthy, really aggressive, really out there, It does look quite reactive by the thin petioles. Probably means, by the way, pro tip, if you're buying your alocasia, probably means it's more water loving. So a little tip, when you see alocasia like this, with really narrow petioles and big thin leaves, it's very water loving. That could mean, depending on your watering style, it's either easier for you to take care of or it's worse. Contrast that with, say, the black velvet with the really short petioles and it's meatier and it's more succulent in nature, the jewel alocasia, if you will. They're usually easier. They're less water loving. But again, if you're an overwaterer, you might keep this one alive quicker than you will a jewel alocasia. Always bear that in mind when you're shopping for things. This works with most plants, by the way. It would work with an anthurium, philodendron. Like, the theory works, generally speaking. But how gorgeous is that? That is, those lobes. Oh, it's so aggressive. I love it. Okay, the next plant in uncommon. This used to be, it could have been in extremely rare, you know. I actually think it was in extremely rare. This is the ALOCASIA Loco. And I think it is a hybrid. I just thought it was a random mutation of Amazonica, but I don't think it is. So it's a hybrid between Sanderiana and watsoniana, which is like a subset of Longiloba, actually. It's really different. I always dubbed it like the Halloween plant. There is like a newer version of this further down the list. It's quite interesting. If you like this, but you think it will make it a little bit more muted, I have something for you. I actually have something for you. I have a couple of things for you, actually. But it's really good. I don't know if I want it anymore. And it's got nothing to do with the fact it's common. I think my window of appreciating it is just gone. There is another plant on this list that is it's equally Halloweeny and weird, and I do want it a lot more than this. I will let you know when we get there. Do not worry. Sit tight, guys. I am going through these as quick as I can, to the point where I actually need a drink because my throat is starting to hurt. My goodness. Oh, yes. Oh, that's good. Okay. So yeah, ALOCASIA Loco. Let me know if you actually went and bought one. Let me know what you think of it. I'm kind of just sort of indifferent now, which is really sad because I used to love that. The next plant in uncommon, I thought it was rarer than this, but alas, if I can find it on the internet, it can't be. This is ALOCASIA Nebula. Now, this varies as well in terms of a little bit like the ALOCASIA Reversa, the other one with the dark like veining in the center. This can be photoshopped as well a little bit. I suspect the one I'm showing you is a little bit, color pumped or whatever, or the contrast being put up or whatever it is. But they are very, very nice. I used to want one of these because I don't know if I used to call it like the Batman plant or something like that. I called it something like, years ago. I'm not exactly sure what I said, but I said something. But I'm probably going to compare this to the first plant in our rare category. Yes, I know. So let's just fire off rare so I can make this comparison. The first plant in the rare category, this is a bit rare, and I wonder if it's a care thing because it looks very similar to the Nebula, right? It's not a ton different. This first plant in rare, guys, is ALOCASIA Reinae. You see what I'm saying? Like, I will pop them up next to each other. All right, cool. It's basically, if you like the Nebula but you don't want the dark parts, then basically you go for Reinae. It's still got that tire tread, which is really, really nice. All round nice plant. I suspect this could be a care issue. I don't know. Let me know if this is actually rare for you where you are. Some people are going to say yes. Some people are going to say no. Remember, that is the nature of the rare plant index. That is the nature of the beast. But it is quite nice. I would have to see that one in person, I think. Oh, goodness. Right, I have... The next plant in rare, I've written compare it with Dragon's Breath, but I also want to compare it to the Scalprum. I'm so sorry. The next plant that I'm putting this in rare, this is ALOCASIA Heterophylla bahamut. So there are a few different variations of Heterophylla, by the way. There is silver, there's this one, there's Dragon's Breath, and there is another silver one. But just for the sake of this video, I've just included these two. So I'm going to compare it with Dragon's Breath. You'll see it's very, very different from Dragon's Breath. I don't know how different it is from Scalprum. Kind of, yes. Okay, it's different. But I don't know, maybe this one's more impressive. Honestly, I promise I'll stop. I just need to stop seeing things that are similar. I really do. Yeah, I don't really see people growing this. There's other like green, intricate ALOCASIA that are on this list that I would prefer to this one. So I'm not exactly saying it's amazing. It's just, there's one to note, but it is very different from the other Heterophylla that are in this list. Now, this next plant is in rare. It's potentially less rare in the UK and the EU. But I actually think it looks quite crap. It's giving me like a philodendron, like black cardinal vibe. This is ALOCASIA Infernalis Black Magic. I don't know if it's known as Infernalis and Black Magic or it's ALOCASIA Infernalis Black Magic, but you get the point. If you type in either, you'll probably get it. So essentially, it's a black ALOCASIA, but it just don't look right. I've not seen many that do. The petioles look way too short and the leaves look way too large and it just doesn't grow in a way that I like. This is not what I want from an ALOCASIA. If I'm having dark leaves, I want something more out of it than this. I don't know why it's not taken off. Maybe it is a looks thing. I suppose if you want something really black, then yeah, this is probably your boy. But there are other dark things. Namely the next one on the list, which is ALOCASIA Princeps. I quite like this one. I can't work out what the petioles are like but this looks quite dark. It's quite pointy. It's quite arrow-shaped. It's quite nice. If you want something a bit darker, just maybe go for this one. All right, just maybe go for this one. Google it. Make sure it is dark. Make sure it's what you want. Obviously, I think it's more water-loving. I can sort of tell that from the structure of it, but it just looks sexier. I just think it's going to look better in a collection. Again, I'm not meaning to insult anybody that owns these plants. This whole thing is personal taste. Obviously, I have my tastes. You have your tastes. It is what it is. That's not a vibe for me, the Infernalis, but the Princeps probably is. Would I get it? Probably not. Don't have a lot of space. I actually find the next plant more visually like, whoa. And I do see a couple of people wanting this. This beautiful looking thing. But look at this picture before I even announce what it is. Look at that. Tell me that don't look great. This is ALOCASIA olanii. It reminds me of something, you know. And I don't know what it is. Is it like, it's almost like Cecestus mirabilis without the white. It's giving me something, and I can't think of what it is. It has a look about it that says, I'm difficult. Do you know what I mean? I can't explain it. The petioles look super thin. The leaves look super thin. It looks super exotic. I might be wrong. Like, I am genuinely making this shit up as I go along, right? Literally. Like, I don't have notes on these. I'm making this up, right? But it looks really not great to care for. If you have one, let me know if it is, because I would like to know. It does look very cool though, but it's really giving me vibes of something else. If you know what it is, let me know. Maybe a xanthosoma. There's a few xanthosoma that kind of do that kind of thing. There was one I used to have. At least I think it was a xanthosoma. I had it in the shop and it looked a bit like that, only had like white veins or something. If you know what I'm thinking of, leave a comment. It's something. It is cool though, and that's obviously a mature one, and it looks amazing. So all for that. I really like the next plant more than. I should have swapped these around really. More than the Princeps, I like this one. This is the one I would pick if I was going dark and thin and whatever. This is ALOCASIA poitra. The name's on the screen, guys. I'm going to put it next to the Princeps because you see what I'm saying? Okay, they are not the same, but they give the same vibe. And personally, this one looks nicer. I really like the cushioniness of it compared to the other one. The other one's a little bit plain. The other one's a little bit like it's in the draft stage of ALOCASIA. Like the design is like, he's sketched up like the color, the shape. It's real basic for now. We have not come in and made it, you know, what it needs to be. This looks like the finished version of that. Do you get what I mean? I really like that, and I'd be interested to see more photos of that. Again, I'm a little bit worried about those really thin petioles. Now, it wouldn't stop me from getting that type of ALOCASIA. It would just make me think, okay, do I have my ALOCASIA care down? You know what I mean? But it's really nice, that one. I really like that. I hope that's not photoshopped to the point where it's actually really green and somebody just made it look black, because that's gorgeous. This next plant is giving off more of an alien vibe. So if you like ALOCASIA cuprea, you might like this. Now, it doesn't look anything like ALOCASIA cuprea, don't get me wrong. I just think that this is one for you. This is ALOCASIA Prince of Kurup. Not sure where it's from. There is a Prince of something else as well that looks slightly different to this, and I can't remember what it's called. So if you're looking for this, you will come across the other thing that's sort of similar. I've chosen this. This looks awesome. And hopefully you can see on the image, the texture of this looks like, it kind of looks like leather, and it probably is. I imagine it to be really leathery, which it makes me think maybe easier care, maybe a bit tougher. I don't know. Whoever's taken this picture clearly has a few in the background. I don't think they're all the same. I think there's some different ALOCASIA there, but that looks a little bit special to me. That almost looks like the way that I'm showing that photograph there. It almost looks like a botanical drawing of an ALOCASIA, you know, when they go like super contrasty and like perfect. Kind of looks like that. I'd be interested in one of them. I would be interested in one of them. It's really nice. I don't hear about this one, mind. I don't hear about this one. And that says a lot, given the status of like where we're at, obviously with the whole rare thing, things aren't as rare now, blah, blah, blah. If I say I don't see something, we're on to a winner, guys, quite honestly. But that's really, really nice. I don't know if it's a hybrid, I don't know what the hell it is, but it's really nice. But this next one, I am really surprised that I don't see on the internet, because I can see loads of people wanting this. Amazonica lovers, your ears can now prick back up. Feast your eyes on this. This is cool. I actually think this looks very striking. This is like Amazonica on steroids. This is ALOCASIA mandalae. It is assumed as, apparently it's a hybrid, as Sanderiana, which seems to be crossed with everything, by watsoniana, which seems to be crossed with everything. So they're very randy alocasia, it would seem. And I'm guessing there are a lot of hybrids of those plants. So this is maybe a very specific hand-picked seedling that's gone, ooh, okay. I've written in my notes, the closest thing is Amazonica, but not really, which means I will put up for you the Amazonica on the other side of the screen to show you what I mean. I mean, it's very obvious which one's more striking. Again, personal preference, of course, but I think that's quite nice. And I feel like if I saw it in person, I'd be a bit like, ooh, I like it. I really like that. It is quite nice, to be fair. But again, I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe now after this video, maybe I might see it more, which would be amazing, by the way. The last plant in the rare category. I do not see this plant at all. It was a struggle, and I like it. Black velvet lovers, your ears may now prick up. This is Alocasia reginula silver velvet. I know, not black velvet, silver velvet. And I nearly moved it into very rare. I've written in my notes here, I debated moving this one up. So I nearly put it in very rare because I'm not seeing it. Now, I like this image, and I'm showing you this very specific image because it does a lot of good for me. You can actually see black velvet in the background. You can see it. So you can see how different it looks. And it does look very different. It's very, very nice. Is this something you need to care about? That's really down to personal preference, because I would imagine this costs a bit because I haven't seen them. I don't think this is a, oh, no one's interested thing. I think this is there aren't many of these. If you have one, tag me in it on Instagram, because maybe I'm wrong. I can get things wrong. I do it all the time. So you never know. I just struggle to find it. But how awesome does that look? That's really, really pretty. Not necessary. You know, you could spend a lot less money and not quite have that vibe. That's fine. But it is very nice. And this is a rare plant index, so it's going on the list. Right. Let me just have a little scroll down this category. Oh, very interesting. We're now in very rare. I know, against all the odds, guys, there is a very rare category. There is. And we're going to start with, this is very interesting. And there are a lot better images of this plant than the one I'm showing you. But this is just the nicest one I could find for the video. This is Alocasia boysiana shattered glass. It's cool. Now, it doesn't, in my opinion, look chlorotic or anything. I personally think it looks good. Again, really dependent on the image. This is one that you're going to want to Google. This is one that you're going to want on Instagram. You're going to want to do all that because I think it's really, really nice. It's very, very different. It had to go in very rare. I don't say it collect enough. Maybe it's a really random mutation that people don't care about. I don't know. Maybe it's not popular because of the mutation, because a lot of people think, well, it's a bit, a bit mosaicy, a bit chlorotic, a bit, like, is it safe? Is it like an actual plant, or is somebody capitalizing off a virus? It's happened a lot on the internet. A lot. But yeah, I really like it. I'd like to see it in person, but no doubt I literally never will. But it had to go on the list in very rare. It had to. It's very different. But let me tell you this next plant. This is wild. This is clearly, it's a mutation. It has to be a mutation. It's not one I think that anyone would want, right? I would be amazed if you were sat at home and you wanted this plant. Okay, I just would. There's other mutations on this list that you could make money off. They look cool. They're different. Whatever else. This is weird. This, guys, is Alocasia hypoleuca mahafetra. So I'm guessing it's. This is me guessing. There are no notes. This is a mutant, or mutation, I should say, of Alocasia hypoleuca. Look at the state of that. Obviously, it's like turned back on itself and it's made like really weird pockets. Do you know what it looks like to me though? Kind of looks like a shower cap. I don't know if you use them in America. I actually do. At home, I use shower caps a lot. If I'm just getting in the shower and I'm not actually washing my hair, I will tie my hair up because there's a lot of it. Obviously, it's very pretty. Hair extensions and everything. I will put it in a disposable shower cap. I am the unsexiest thing anybody has ever seen in the shower, I promise you. But that is actually what that reminds me of. Honestly, if you would honestly have one of these, let me know in the comments. I would be surprised. I would really be surprised. The next plant is giving me solid anthurium vibes. So anthurium lovers, you might like it, but not your average anthurium lover, okay? Probably because the name is so similar to the anthurium that I would compare it to. This is Alocasia peltata. I know. So it looks really weird, and it's giving me Anthurium peltatum. If you've seen that before, I'm going to have to find an image of it now just to make my editing even harder than it already is. It's not the same. Obviously, it's an alocasia and there's an Anthurium and whatever else. But you get what I'm saying? If you like the Anthurium peltatum, you might like this. Again, it's in very rare, at least so it seems. So best of luck with that. But it's quite nice. I like the shape of it. It's different. It's not personally what I want from an alocasia. It's not even what I want from an Anthurium, because my favourite Anthurium would be, of that nature, would probably be the Forgetii, the dark one. I love it. It's great. I would totally pick it up. It's in the cupboard. I can't. Should I pick it up? No, because I've not picked up my other alocasia in this video, and I don't want to be mean to it. But yeah, really nice. Don't know much about it. You can tell it's not very easy to find because my photograph of it looks like it's in the wild, basically. That's when you know that we're getting pretty good and we're getting into very rare. So yeah, let me know what you think. It's not for me, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. So the next plant, right, think back to the Alocasia Loco. Cast your mind back. You looked at it and you thought, a bit much that. The curly whirly, oh yeah, cool, but that's a lot. Like that looks Halloween. And I don't want Halloween. Make it fancy, make it demure, right? I give you the Alocasia rudus. It's similar, but it's curlier. It's like the Loco is a bit more slept on curled hair. This is like fresh rolled hair vibes. It's greener. It's still got the contrast. It's weird. Listen, I'm not going to pretend it's not an acquired taste. Of course it is. I wouldn't have it. It's not for me. My one gnarly plant I will get to momentarily. It's not this one. But it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool. I will pop up the Loco next to it because it's the only thing so far that could even remotely compare to it. But as you will see, very different. This one's just a little bit more refined, a little bit more demure. But it's still a beast. It's still weird. It's nice though. Oh my god, this next one, right. I can't find much on this plant, but what I have written is that it's more common in the US from what I can see. This, guys, you already know, let me put the picture up, you obviously know what I'm going to compare it to. Obviously. This is Alocasia purpley. Now, it doesn't quite look the same as the Amazonica. It sort of does. Yeah, literally. But it's purple. Now, it doesn't stay purple. Notice, before we all get very excited and drop a lot of money on it, if it's a lot of money. If it's not, great, you do you. Notice that the older leaves are not purple, okay? Clearly, the emergent leaves are purple. Now, it's very cool, and for a lot of people, that's enough. For example, when Philodendron Leinamii took off, those leaves came through like all pink or red. Everyone loved those. I'm not saying we don't appreciate a different colored leaf. Florida Ghost, my favorite plant, Philodendron Florida Ghost, that comes in and it changes color. Monstera White Monster, I have that too. You won't see it in the frame. Changes color. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying be careful because this is such a big difference. I don't see a lot of it though, so if it's something you're looking for, get Googling. Over here, can't find it. I really can't find it. So shops, if you're watching this, they usually do. Maybe that's something you might want to look for. I actually think it would do quite well in a shop. If it grows well and it sort of grows like the Amazonica, this could be quite a good one for you. Yeah, I wouldn't have it. It's not for me, but I do appreciate it. And if you've got any pictures of yours that look super purple, then tag me in them on Instagram. I do appreciate a good tag, guys. Let me know. The next plant in very rare, I actually have taken the step to decide I actually want one. And it is gnarly and it is different. And you know what? It's expensive. So I've actually written in my notes for this plant, investment plant alert. Because if you have one of these and you're able to propagate it and pass this on, you might make some cash. And I never say that anymore. For obvious reasons, guys. I never say that anymore. However, this is the Alocasia Venom. And I'm sorry, how cool is that? I know it's on the thumbnail as well. It's why I used it on the thumbnail. I made my thumbnail this morning. I don't usually do that before I do the video, but I did this morning because I had extra time. I had to wait for the sun to pass over. Hence, we're now looking very, very blue back here. I apologize for that. We're in the shade now. But how good is that? So I don't know. And I'm going to say this at the risk of sounding stupid. I'd rather ask the question and the internet answer me than not ask it, right? This is out of my knowledge base, but I have seen combs for sale of this plant online, right? On Etsy, on eBay, stuff like that, right? And the plants are very, very expensive and the combs are very, very cheap. Am I right to assume that it's not guaranteed that this mutation is going to pass to the corm? If someone could answer below, I would really appreciate it. And you know what? Probably everybody watching this that is interested in this plant would also appreciate it. I don't know. I want to say that they don't pass on by fact that the corms are very cheap. And I've also seen very recently when I was looking for this plant on the internet and trying to find out like how available it was or whatever, I saw somebody selling something that was supposed to be venom and it looked just plain. And I assumed that, and it was baby as well. And I actually assumed that they bought corms and grew it out and then they think it's going to be venom or whatever. And although it's the corm from a venom, it's not going to do it. So yeah, at the risk of sounding silly, guys, please leave a comment as to what the tea is with that, because I don't want anyone getting scammed and I don't know if that passes on. I really don't. But if you're going to buy a established one, which depending on what the comments say, I would recommend massively. Listen, they're expensive. They are expensive. Are they worth it? Yeah, very variable, as you can imagine. So you probably do want to look at the photos of the exact one you're buying and do that kind of thing. But yeah, super awesome. I kind of want one. I don't think I would have it pride of place. It really depends what it looks like. Maybe it's more of like a cabinet plant for me, but I really like that. That's way cool. Now, I'll just transport you back very briefly to the Alocasia rudus. I'll flash it back up. I'm going to give you something now that's sort of like that, sort of like the Loco, but just a bit more, I don't know. It's a bit like Alocasia Loco and Alocasia rudus' big brother. And this is quite rare. This, guys, is the Alocasia Grim Reaper. How freaking cool does that sound? So this is a hybrid of really unlikely cross. Honestly, I had to read it twice. It's a really unlikely cross. This is apparently, guys, a cross of Alocasia odora and Alocasia black velvet. Like, one is so tall, one is so short. How did they even get together and make it work, you know? How big is the box? How big is the box to stand on? You know what I'm saying? I do know that that's not how it works. You don't need to comment. Don't worry. But yeah, if you like the rudus, if you like the Loco, if you like that kind of vibe, maybe this is one to go for. It is a little bit more, if I say mature looking, you know what I mean? It's a bit more quiet, it's darker, it's a bit more stealthy, it's different. It looks to me like the leaves are like super hard. It's almost giving like, what else has leaves that hard? I'm thinking of something, I can't think of what it is, but like they almost look crispy hard. Again, I am just looking at a photograph for that, so I might be wrong. Let me know if you do have one, what they're like. They are to be found, by the way. And to be honest, what used to happen, and I'm not saying this is going to happen this time because we are years later now, but a lot of the time, way back in the day when I used to do these rare plant indexes, story time, I used to put a video up, and then if it went up on the Friday, that weekend, you would see people searching for that plant, or they would immediately sell that plant. So because off the back of the video, people would search it. Not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying be aware of that because sales might pop up that you never expected, if you know what I mean. Or you might just see more images of them, which we would love to see it. We would love to see it. I have seen a few people owning this, but I think in terms of buying it, not really. Not really. Okay, guys, we're now in an extremely rare. The plant in extremely rare, because there is one plant. I won't drag it out for you because we've been here a long time. I can see my raw footage and I did think we were going to be here an hour. And I genuinely have tried to buzz through these, as I'm sure you can appreciate. I've not lingered at all. The plant in extremely rare, we have seen it before in a different colour. And let me just tell you the category that it was in. Oh, okay. It was in very rare. Okay. I can only find one photograph on the internet of this plant. So it does exist. I actually think this could be a one-off. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Happy to be corrected, by the way. Feel free to leave comments. You can't offend me. Let me know. But I genuinely couldn't find this plant. This plant in extremely rare is pretty cool. This is the Alocasia peltata silver or grey. We'll say silver. It sounds nicer and it sounds more befitting of extremely rare. Guys, this is the only photo I can find. And it looks really cool. And the petioles look quite blush red. And that, I mean, you can't argue with that. That is silver. That is silver as all hell. That is quite amazing. And I actually think if by some miracle people had that, I think it's worth a bit of bob because I think someone's going to want it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It depends on the care of e.g. the peltata. Sorry if I keep saying that. It's really annoying. It does depend on the care of the original green one. I'll put the green one up next to it. Why not? But it's very elusive is the best way I can describe it. I probably wouldn't have it for myself. Lol. Shunning the only extremely rare. alocasia, but I would love to see it. I would love to see more photographs of this. I would love to see it passed around. I would love to see it collected. This is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. But yeah, that's all I've got from that, like the plant. Like I can't find anything on the internet. It's wild. And with that, guys, that actually concludes the Rare Plant Index. If memory serves, there was something like 25 plants in common, around about 15 plants in uncommon, something like 9 for rare, 7 for very rare, and 1 for extremely rare. It's around about 56, 57 plants, something like that. I really hoped you enjoyed it. I wouldn't normally put hybrids in, but hey, we need to change the rules now because everything has changed. I'm still not going to generally put variegates in. It's just not something I like to do. I think you can find a variegate everything, and I just think it adds unnecessary bloat to these rare plant indexes. What I would probably do is I would make a separate video for variegates, right? So I'd either do like a variegated alocasia RPI. I call them RPIs, rare plant index. It's my internal lingo. Or I would just do like A to Z of variegated alocasia. I'd do something else. I just don't want to put it in this one. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I really, honestly, I would really appreciate it. It lets me know that I've actually done a good job here. I wanted it to be long. I wanted you to be able to sit and have a drink and a snack. Let me know, please, so excited, what plants, if any, that you have maybe put on your wish list from watching this. I know I've potentially got like 3 out of 57. Obviously, I'm being very, dare I say, picky. Particular is a nice word. Let me know what you put on your list. Let me know what you think of this video, and let me know what the next rare plant index is. It can be something we've already done. It can be a new thing. Please vote in the comments. That is where I'll be looking. And with that said, please follow my socials. The links are on the screen. Subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss more videos like this. And I will see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.